disappointment is there, some encouragement from the means there. There is opportunity, companies are joining hand. Now recently we are now establishing a BPO association to join hand and request, put our common, common problem, whatever, for the government in organized manner, to do also advocacy and some support for the government. These are the things what it happens. Thank you.
Thank you, አቶ ባሩ። ምናልባት እኔ በአማርኛ ጠቅለል ላድርገውና አይ ቲንክ አቶ ባሩ በደንብ ነው የገለጸው። ማለት ብዙ እድሎች አሉ አሁን ቢፒኦ እና አውትሶርሲንግ ላይ። እንደዛም ሆኖ ግን አሁን ለምሳሌ በቴልኮ ሊበራላይዜሽን የመጡት ኦፖርቹኒቲዎች አሉ። ኢቭን መስኩ ያገኘው አዌርነስም እዛም ላይ ብዙ ኦፖርቹኒቲዎች አሉ። እንደዛ ሆኖ ግን ብዙም ደግሞ ተግዳሮቶችም አሉ። ለምሳሌ አይሲቲ ፓርክ ላይ በዶላር ክፈሉ እየተባለ ነው። ሳብስቴሽን ገና አልተሟላም ከ8 ዓመት በኋላ የመሳሰሉትና even in terms of the directives ባለፈው እኛ አሶሲዬሽን እንመሰርታለን ብለን ኦልሞስት አሁን 1 ዓመት ሙሉ ይሆናል አይ ቲንክ የተንገላታ ነው። ቢካዝ አንዳንድ ጊዜ ጀስት በአንድ ቃል ብቻ ነው እነዚህ ነገሮች የሚፈቱት። ምናልባት አንድ ሰው እዛ የምናገኛቸው ሰዎች I'm sure Wendosen can elaborate on this outsourcing ምንድነው ይላሉ etc. እና so አሁን ወደ ዶክተር አብዮት ስመጣ I think, let me switch to English, and I think the Ministry of Innovation and Technology has been doing an amazing job at, in terms of the digital strategy 2025. Some people are cynical about it sometimes and say, what was the bottom line? For me, the bottom line is clear, is the fact that I think 4 years ago, no one, or maybe I'm a bit aggressive there, but a limited number of people knew how to spell digital in the government. But now, I think thanks to your raising of the awareness, a lot of people are speaking digital in the government, policymakers, they start to understand what outsourcing is. So this is really amazing, right? But maybe Dr. Abiot, where we can discuss on is, as I think Baru alluded to, is what are kind of the specific incentives that are coming out for business process outsourcing? And then also, my question is also around, I think you guys have done a tremendous job, and I think for me, this is what the government's role is, especially here in Ethiopia, is in terms of convening and raising awareness, and of course, policy making. But I think you guys have done a tremendous job. It's throughout Ethiopia, not just here in Kalil Asrarat, but throughout Ethiopia, you've raised awareness about digital, right? So how can we also raise awareness with the big companies? It could be like Ethio Telecom, Ethiopian Airlines. Recently we're hearing from banks that they're finally going to outsource some of the things that are not their core competencies, right? So Ato Malako was talking about bringing the party home, which I agree, right? So there's onshoring, offshoring type of opportunities, but there's also domestic outsourcing type of opportunities, right? Why is Ethiopian Airlines not outsourcing some of the work, for instance, to Africom or Accelerant? Why is, Bank of, or Commercial Bank of Ethiopia, sometimes they're outsourcing to, I think Ato Baru was mentioning this on a recent article, I think Addis Fortune or whatever. Why do we always outsource to, sometimes when they do, they outsource abroad. So why can't we also outsource domestically for some of these local companies? So those were kind of the 2 questions I had for you.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, thank you for the organizers for inviting me to speak here. Let me start from the background. In 2019, we had this Digital Ethiopia 2025 strategy, and this strategy has 2 major components. The first one is it has the pathways or the major sectors on which the digital activity is focusing, and also the digital foundations upon which other systems will be built. From the pathways or from the sector that the strategy is focusing on, one of them is agriculture, and the other one is manufacturing, the third one is tourism, and the fourth one is the IT-enabled services. So the BPO is one of the IT-enabled services. So the strategy clearly recognizes that the IT-enabled services will give a chance to Ethiopia, will use the opportunities in Ethiopia to create jobs, to get foreign earnings, as well as to bring inclusive prosperity. So the question is how this will be materialized. So apart from the pathways, there are the foundations. The foundations focus on the first one is building the infrastructure. Without the basic infrastructure, it's unthinkable to have this the BPO and other digitization activities. So what the government devising is that having a new operator in the country and also renovating the digital infrastructure the government has been using. So now the building the digital infrastructure is going well, even if it's not enough, but it seems it's going well, and at least it's enough to start basic services. The other thing is to build the enabling systems, like to enable the payment and the digital security, and also building the ecosystem. In building the ecosystem, so either it is BPO or any other activities, the center is, people are at the center of the strategy. So unless we have the right skill, unless we have the right attitude towards the digital activities, it's difficult to bring BPO as well as other digitization activities. So the first thing that we have done after the strategy is to build the digital skill framework with the current Ministry of Science and Higher Education, with the existing Ministry of Education. Because unless we have the right output from our universities and colleges, it's difficult to sustain the BPO industry. So the second one is to have the right proclamations and regulations. And the first proclamation will be the e-transaction proclamation, because ahead of everything, we have to make sure that the digital activities are legal in Ethiopia, because there are a lot of issues related with that one. So we recognize electronic message, electronic interaction, and resisting, and the proclamation makes them equally acceptable before the law. And also, the second thing that we have done is the incentive regulations. Before, in earlier times, there was an incentive for the IT sector, but it's not clear which type of IT sector is receiving the incentive. So while the government is revising the investment incentive regulations, so we clearly put which sector should get what type of incentive. So we make BPO as one of the key areas for investment incentive in Ethiopia. So there are a lot of incentives there, like exemption from tax, importing capital materials, as well as having importing building material if somebody want to build his own BPO centers. So it seems we also feel that the government is in the right track on promoting the BPO sector. But the government's definition of the BPO sector and the existing industry has a little bit difference because of our historical background. The BPO companies are focusing on IT. So most of them are IT outsourcing companies. But the strategy is focusing on, okay, IT is one of the areas that we can export to outside, but there are a lot of other services that we can export. So we have a lot of graduates in management, accounting, and in any other services, in architecture and others. So even we can trade, we can export all these services, provided that we have the right infrastructure and the right policy in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abiot. So, because I really want this session to be interactive, and I see a lot of young people, and to be honest, we've had this discussion, I don't know, at least maybe 10 times, and one of the things, I'm not exaggerating, I think, and one of the things that we want to do with these discussions is to make sure that we're raising awareness, but also that there's engagement, right, from folks. So, but before I get into the questions, and we'll take one question, and then you address it to one person specifically, in 30 seconds. But I want to build on what Dr. Abiot said. I think the government has been doing a great job at, creating kind of the linkage, or at least also raising awareness on campuses in terms of what could be done, right, with some of these private sector entities. And then in terms of regulations, there's been also a tremendous amount of policies in the pipeline in terms of incentives, the e-receipt, etc. I think there's a bit that can be worked on in terms of the execution. But again, one thing at a time. So I think the other point that I wanted to make was in terms of the domestic outsourcing, right? And again, before I go to the questions, one thing that we should do, and I'm kind of brainstorming here, but we see usually, and I think that's going to be the role of the association, is to kind of reach out across the aisle. We have Accelerant, we have Africom, and within our even FROG community, we have some of these logos. We have R&D Ethiopia, etc., right? MMCY, I don't see them here in the room today. But now more and more, we have some call centers. Like for instance, the other day for our fintech, we say, hey, we want to outsource some of our back office processes. And some person out of nowhere popped up and they're like, hey, we're actually doing some work here with Huawei and stuff. I had never heard of them. And they're here in Ethiopia. Maybe small operations, but I think they can grow. Then we also have some of the operations, of companies that are working with Safaricom. In Ludeta, I'm hearing that they're going to have an office with about 1,000 people or something like that, right? So I think some of these also local success stories, well, I hope they're going to be success, but we have to kind of elevate them, and I hope this is going to be the role of the association. So maybe from the room, we can take maybe 3 questions, but again, very short ones, 30 seconds, and say specifically to whom you're addressing the question, whether it be Ato Malaku, Ato Baru, or Dr. Abiot.
Okay. Regarding domestic outsourcing, I want to share my experience. I think the government decided, the Ministry of Urban Development and Construction decided to digitize the landholders file of all major cities in Ethiopia. Then as a pilot, 3 cities are selected. I remember Bahar Dar, Mekelle, and Dredwa. We did the digitization process for these 3 cities from the Majesty time up to the current time. We did all this scanning operation and also metadata entry and so on. This one is a big experience for Africom. Then, now when the government sees the success, instead of engaging more Ethiopian IT companies, they float a tender. In that tender, they put as evaluation criteria many PhD holders and so on, just to manipulate. Now that tender is won by from outside of Ethiopia. Then the assignment is taken for 23 cities. At that time, I advise them, not only Africom. Africom can take a limited number. You can distribute for other Ethiopian countries, other Ethiopian companies. But they are not accepting my advice. Now, after 18 months, they come to me, Baharu, we failed on that project. Can we take this project? Have you seen? After spending a lot of money of the country, even I am doing IMBR, they are paying for the international companies in USD. After taking like 40% of the money and so on, they failed, they come to it. And also I discussed with Dr. Abiot, these things happen. Therefore, there are a number of, especially on digitization, if you go to Ministry of Trade, a huge number of manual paper is piled up. If you go to bank, the same. We like manual papers, we love it. Now, even Dr. Abiot, he mentioned, we put like e-transaction law. In that law clearly stated, manual paper and digital is equal. But still, if you send them some documents in email, they'll ask you, come and submit to archive office. From my office, from my Steve Park, the distance is like 20 kilometers or something. I should come and submit the same paper. in manual form. Therefore, this kind of challenge is there. I think if you push it, if you go to this document registration authentication office, I'm submitting in every service my full document of license, memorandum of understanding, article of association. If you go there, you can find like maybe 40 copy of my company document, 40 copy. In every service, I should submit the same. Therefore, we should stop because, as you know, papers are, you know, we are planting tree. At the same time, you are also what you do, you know, distraction tree. Therefore, if you come to digitization, we can save trees. In every time we are telling 40 million, some million trees are there. We planted. That's good initiative. But when we move from manual to digital, therefore a huge domestic BPO service, especially on the digitization is there, but nobody moved to from the start code, change. Everybody is resisting, they love, please submit your document to archive office. We call it in Amharic, Mazgabet. Mazgabet is the most important office here. Submit there, otherwise I will not touch anything. Yeah, these are the issue I want to mention. Thank you.
I could start with a quick question. When you talk to potential buyers of your services who are outside Ethiopia, what is their impression of this market, and how would you like to change that? How would you like to change the narrative so they understand, you know, what they can get out of an Ethiopian BPO provider?
Okay. First off, it's, you know, it's transaction, right? Buy and sell. They have the money, we have the service. So above and beyond, they don't know Ethiopia as a destination for outsourcing. So we have to promote that. You know, it all starts by having a trust and relationship. So once we get the chance, the opportunity to work with them, the rest is easy. They will see the things that we deliver, they'll be happy. They want us to even grow more. We have projects from Belgium. It started off with one project that involves 2-3 people. Now we are having five projects from Belgium. We have another company in the States called Security Finance. It's involved in real estate. No, it's a mortgage company. So they started with 5 software engineers, and now they are engaging 33, 34 engineers with 7 projects. There's another project, there's another company. It starts with 2 quality assurance engineers, and now they are engaging 63 professionals. So that's what I meant by getting the opportunity is a key. And for that, promoting the nation, promoting the value, promoting the whatever we have to provide is a key. Once we get that, the rest is, we can do the job. That's easy.
Yeah, just one thing I want to add, because, you know, for someone who's sitting, let's say, in New York State, Upwork, New York, or anywhere, you know, Atlanta, Georgia, they don't really care about Ethiopia, where the country is, where, you know, is it 13 months of sunshine, and none of that. They just look after numbers. And the numbers, we have them. I think that's the point that Malako is trying to say. Number one, we have the volume. We have the labor arbitrage. I don't like to use the term cheap labor, but the point is, you know, we're much more competitive, because we've done the math, compared to a Bangladesh or other countries. And then there's also the language issue, I mean the language benefits, etc. I think, you know, what Ethiopia is lacking now is moving to speed number 2, or to scaling up, right? Basically, what we need really is because it's really great, you know, it's going from 8 to 34, etc. on one account, etc. But we need one big account in Ethiopia. that's going to be a big success story. Because again, some of these companies, they don't care about doing 50 here, 100 there. They want things at scale, because it's all about numbers. I used to work myself at lead a department, and we were relocating processes, and we just look at numbers, you know. So we need one big success story, one big brand that's going to come to Ethiopia. And that's why I'm happy actually to announce that, you know, we're planning to take a delegation for outsourcing to South Africa. You know, South Africa has been one of the leading countries in Africa for outsourcing. They are now on the map for outsourcing. So someone sitting in Upper New York, they would look at the map, right, and they would say, hey, a seat here in a back office process here in New York would cost me X, and then they look at Bangladesh, it costs X, and now South Africa is on the map. And yet they're rather small, you know. I think it's an industry of about 30,000 people, but it's big for Africa. Ethiopia is not on the map. Kenya is not on the map. None of these countries are on the map. So for us, we need to put Ethiopia on the map, and that's why the association is very important that Wendosen is leading. And we're going to South Africa to talk to some of these leading companies to see if they can come to Ethiopia, because South Africa is also becoming expensive, but also to create some of these partnerships, right? Because in some cases, we have some of these logos, and again, I don't see MMCY, but MMCY is already set up shop for CCI, which is one of the largest logos in Africa for call centers, and they've set up shop here in Ethiopia. So yeah, and I think the job is actually on the Ethiopian Investment Commission to really promote Ethiopia as a land of 13 months of outsourcing, you know. So any other questions here? Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Ngada Shati. I'm Ethiopian Indigadro Business President. I will raise my question with my mother tongue in Ethiopia. ሁለታችሁን ነው የምጠይቀው። አመሰግናለሁ ስለተሰጠኝ እድል። ምክንያቱም ዘመዶቻችን ላይ ሰው ጭምር ስለፈለኩ ነው። እኛ ኢትዮጵያውያን እንግዲህ ብዙ ነገራችን ያው በድፍረት እንገባለን። ትንሽ ጠጠር ናት የምትደግፈን። እና እንደሚታወቀው ሁሉ አሁን 70% ወጣቱ ወደ ንግድ የተሰማራበት ኢኖቬሽን ላይ በፈጠነ ሁኔታ እየተጓዘ ያለበት ሁኔታ ነውና እናንተ አቶ መላኩም ዶክተርም ሁለታችሁም ሂውጅ ካምፓኒ ነው ያላችሁና እንዴት ሚኒስትሪ ማርጋችሁ ወደ ወጣቱ ጋር ገብታችሁ ይህን ቴክኖሎጂ ማራመድና እቺን የመጣችዋንም እድል እንዴት መጠቀም እንችላለን? ሁለተኛ ሴቶች ጋር ስመጣ የሴቶች ከኢትዮጵያ ኤክስፖርተርስ ውመንስ አሶሲዬሽን ኮፊ አሶሲዬሽን አለን እዚህ። ነገር ግን እንደ ሴቶች ደግሞ ያው ጋባችንን ታውቃላችሁ፣ ባህላችንን ታውቃላችሁ። ስለዚህ አሁን ዶክተር ሲተረጎም የተተረጎመችዋን እያሳየን ነው። ይህ ማለት ቀላል እንዳይመስላችሁ። እንግሊዘኛውን ብናቅም ቀጥተኛውን ትርጉም ላናገኘው እንችላለንና ቀለል ባለ ኢኖቬሽን ሚኒስቴርም ሊያግዘን ይገባልና ሊያግዛችሁም ይገባል። አሁን ያለውን ቢሮክራሲ በጣጥሳችሁ ለመሄድ በእርግጥ ችግር ላይ ብንሆን ምን ዘመዶቻችን ደግሞ ፈልፍለው ጉዳታችንና ክፋታችንን ክፍተታችንን ለማወቅ